يا أيها الذين آمنوا من يرتد منكم عن دينه فسوف يأتي الله بقوم يحبهم ويحبونه أذلة على المؤمنين أعزة على الكافرين يجاهدون في سبيل الله ولا يخافون لومة لائم. The first one is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, O people who believe, whoever among you will turn away from his faith, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will just bring about another people who love him and he loves them and they will love him. So the description of the believer is that they love Allah and Allah loves them. We just have to show a bit of love for Allah and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is willing to give us a lot more. The second verse is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, among people, there are those who take other than Allah as objects of their love. And they love them like they should love Allah. Whereas, وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, those people who believe, they are most intense in their love for Allah. So Allah is describing the people who believe as being most intense in their love for Allah. Now let's give a few examples of how somebody might love something else like they should love Allah. So now we've got many examples today. If you support a team, whether that be in basketball or any soccer or anything, right? In any sport, and you literally go crazy. I was talking to a little kid, a little child, and he's in London, but he supports a team in Manchester City. Okay? He's in London, but he supports Manchester City. He's only been in Manchester once. But he'll get angry for them. If anybody criticizes that team, he gets upset, he defends them. I'm asking him, I'm thinking, I'm asking him, he's a little 7-8-year-old at the time. I said, why do you like them? Why are you so passionate about them? Why do you become so defensive about them? You don't even know any of the players. You've never met them. You've just been to Manchester once, but you've not even been to their stadium. You got nothing in connection with them, but for some reason, you've got an affinity for them that you sitting miles away from them are willing to defend them and they don't even know you. If they saw you on the street, if any of those players saw you on the street, they wouldn't even know that you support them. So what is it that makes you support them? I mean, I can just about understand it's your own city playing. Okay, it's your city, there's a sense of pride, you've got a connection. I still don't get it why people would do that, of following a team. And they get so riled up about it, they get so excited about it. What is this love? What's the psychology behind it? Have you ever thought about it? I mean, does anybody here love anything like that? For example, some of us have iPhones. I don't, but some of us have iPhones. And if anybody criticizes an iPhone, they get angry. Why do you get angry for? If the iPhone works for you, you use it. But if somebody doesn't like it and they get angry, they criticize it, why are you getting so excited? Are they paying you to do that? Like, I'm genuine, I'm not trying to make fun of anything, I'm really trying to make us think, where does this passion come from? And is the passion rightly placed? Is it worth it? Are you getting anything for it? There's a guy in the area that I moved into, I don't see it anymore, but his number plate, his license plate, whatever you call it here, was, what's that designer company, man? That designer brand. What's that famous designer brand? No, not Gucci, man, they are ugly. No, not LV.
Montclair.
No, that's some Canadian thing.
Stone Island?
Huh?
Stone Island.
No, not Canadian stuff, international stuff.
That's you guys.
Anyway, I forgot whatever. He's got a license plate. It doesn't matter. He's got a license plate with their name. And I was like, okay, maybe they paid him to do that. They didn't. He just loves it so much. He's giving them free exposure. They're making the money. That's really cool, man. Like promotion for free. How many of you give zakat to iPhone every year, to Apple every year? How many of you give your zakat to iPhone every year? You know when you just buy the next phone, you don't really need it? That means you're giving zakat to them. Right? Your phone was completely fine, but because I must have the next one, for what I don't know, right? There's nothing new in it, but you have to give them zakat every year. I've got a friend who is a very wealthy guy. He's been trying to buy me an iPhone for the last 4 years. The latest iPhone for free. I mean, I don't know how much they were. What they were, $2,000 something? For free. But I don't want it. So he's been on my case. He uses an iPhone without a case. If it breaks, he buys another one. He's got that much money, mashallah. So I've been talking to him about it. Alhamdulillah, I met him 4 or 5 months ago and he showed me his phone. I was like, "You showed me your phone again?" He said, no, this is last year's iPhone. I said, wow. I said, so? He said, look, I'm not getting the new one. I'm going to miss it for 1 year. I'll get it next year. Alhamdulillah, kuch to the year. Right? He's improved a bit. But what I'm saying is that this world today, especially the world we live in right now, with all the products that are available, they get us attached in a way that we're willing to give everything. We're willing to spend hours arguing about it. That this is better. You're not making any money doing that. If you work for them and that was your job as a brand ambassador, go ahead all day long. You're making money, then it's fine. But you're not. You have to actually pay for the product. So I really want us to think of this like, through the psychology of this. They say that people in the West make fun of these people in other countries that may have a celebration of some sort with painting on their face and jumping up and down and like, what kind of primitive people are these? They make fun of them. You come to England and you go to the stadiums and they've got all these flags painted on their face. And they're jumping up and down as well. Why is this civilized and why is that not civilized? Why do you do this for? What's the psychology behind it? I'm not saying this is kufr and shirk or anything like that. I'm not giving any fatwas of that nature, but I'm just trying to give us an understanding of how attached you can be to something. Now imagine if that same attachment we had to Allah. Just imagine if our love for a product, for an idea, for a team, and that same fervor that we felt, that same passion we had was for Allah. And just imagine where our deen would be. That was the Sahaba, that's what their passion was. They didn't have anything else. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that there's a lot of people who take other things as God. You don't have to call it God. But the only one that actually deserves this kind of mad passion is Allah. Because He's worth it. Nothing else is worth it. Nothing else is worth it. So imagine if we could do that. Imagine if we could just get that passion for Allah. Some people have it. Sahaba had it. The awliya have it. And inshallah Allah give it to us. Allah give it to us because then we'll never be unhappy, because Allah always gives back a lot more. Allah always gives back a lot more. So that is what you call the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Love is a very strange idea. It's a very powerful idea. And if you felt love, then you'll understand. Love is when you become inclined to something you deem as good and beautiful, right? That's what love is. The only reason we don't see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala everywhere, meaning we don't feel Him everywhere, we don't sense Him everywhere, we don't see His effect everywhere, is because we don't know enough about Allah. Otherwise, Allah is the one who made these pillars. Allah is the one who made the beauty that we see around us. Allah is the one who we owe our own existence to. So how can we be missing Him? The other day I spoke about this. I gave an example that I was looking to buy a car. And you must have had that experience as well, that when you're looking to buy something and you finally find a certain product. Let's just say you're looking to buy a certain car, and then finally you say, okay, I'm going to buy this car. What happens? Don't you start seeing that car everywhere on the streets after that? Before that, it didn't exist. And suddenly, overnight, the streets get flooded with that car. You see it everywhere all of a sudden. Why were we blind to it before, and why did we suddenly start seeing it? Because we noticed it, we became inclined towards it, we started liking it, we wanted it, and now we're seeing it and we're noticing it. That's why we don't notice Allah. There's a big wali of Allah. He came, some guys went with him. Some guys went with him to an ocean, to the ocean, you know. And he said, you guys look at it with your eyes and I'm going to look at it with my eyes. Different perspectives. Once I was with a friend of mine, he was a very religious guy as well, at a wonderful waterfall, not Niagara Falls. They're decent, but these were even better, right? They're the Victoria Falls in Zambia and Zimbabwe. They're amazing, they're very wild and amazing. So I couldn't help but remark, I think one of us said, look at the beauty of Allah. Just the whole beauty of it just tells us that Allah is the one who created this, it's beautiful. And I think he said, look at the might of Allah. Those waterfalls, even if you go to Niagara Falls, right? They represent multiple characteristics of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? Tell me, what do they represent? They represent the might of Allah. Just see that whole huge, massive body of water just cascading down with all that force. It's absolutely awesome. The awesomeness of Allah, the omnipotence of Allah, the power of Allah, the strength of Allah, the beauty of Allah, the design of Allah. How many things does that tell us? Who else created those forces? Just look at the human being. How many characteristics does that tell us about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in just ourselves? The sophisticated nature of the human being, our flesh, our blood, the way our mind works, the hormone system, right? The way the brain works and everything else functions. How the skin never gets old. There's a constant replacement of the epidermis and so on. Ajib, sophisticated and elaborate nature of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the reason that we never thank Allah for that is because we have not noticed Allah yet. We don't know enough about Allah yet. The more I know about a product, the more I'm going to become inclined to that product. The more I know about Allah, the more inclined I'm going to be. And the best way to get inclined to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is to know Him more. The best way to know Allah is through reading the Quran with meaning. That's Allah speaking. He's telling us who He is, His characteristics. He is Alimun Qadir. He is Hakimun Alim, Ghafurun Shakur. He is Ghafir al-Dhanb, Qabil al-Tawb, Shadid al-Iqab, Dhid al-Tawb, La ilaha illa hu. الله لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم لا تأخذه سنة ولا نوم له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض من ذا الذي يشفع عنده إلا بإذنه يعلم ما بين أيديهم وما خلفهم ولا يحيطون بعلمه إلا and so on. These are all the description. You will see how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala deals with people, how He rewards people without any limitations, how He assists people, how He extracts people, delivers people, how He saves people, how He punishes people, what He's prepared for people, what He warns against, what He promises, what He's made, the paradise and the hellfire, and everything else. When we get to recognize Allah, then you'll see how the whole world fits into that whole design, that whole purpose. Otherwise, you don't get that design. And that's the problem. So the four ways that, there's multiple ways of getting to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala so that we can actually then incline towards Him and love Him and notice Him everywhere, right? And one of the first ways is reading the Quran. So if you're an Arab, if you know Arabic, you can do it directly. If you don't know Arabic, get a translation. whichever language, just start reading 1 or 2 pages with meaning, just ponder over who He is. Now, Allah has sent us an email. Allah has sent us, you can call it an email, you can call it a WhatsApp message, you can call it a direct inbox message, or whatever you want to call it, but we haven't opened it. And it's going to be very embarrassing when you ask on the Day of Judgment, I sent you a message, did you read it? What happened is a few months ago, in I think it was October, I was invited to a major conference in another country related to jurisprudence, and I was half inclined to go because it's kind of my, my line of work. So I spoke to them. I said, "Okay, I'm going to come. Most likely I'm going to come, but I'll tell you the exact date I want to book the ticket for." The conference was supposed to start on, I think, a Sunday, but I said I might want to come 2 days in advance or 1 day in advance, right? And then after that, I got a bit busy with other stuff, and I kind of kept delaying it. And I thought, it's okay. If I delay, I might not go. It's okay. I checked my junk mail for something, and I saw an email from them on a Thursday. Or a Wednesday. I saw an email from them, but I was so busy at that time, I took it out of the junk mail and put it into my inbox. And I said, I'll check it later. Because before conferences, they put your name on the list and they start sending you schedules and things like that, right? So I said, I'll check it later. Then after that, I got another message from them it was Friday. Yeah, Friday about 7 o'clock. I decided to open that message, it was a new message. I decided to open, and I decided that, you know what, that earlier message, let me check that as well. And I checked, and it was a ticket, business class, next day leaving at about 9 in the morning on a Saturday. And I find that Saturday night, Friday night, and I'm not prepared to go anymore because there was something had happened in the family, and I wasn't. It's like, oh no. You know, how embarrassing is that? I received a ticket, I haven't seen the message, and now I'm going to tell the last minute I can't come. That's just not right, you know? So I managed to quickly contact them, and I said, look, I told you to wait. I blame them. I said, I told you to wait for me telling you which day I want to come. They just booked the ticket like they did everybody else's on the day before the conference. So I really can't come, so my apologies, and so on, but I didn't tell you to wait for me. That was my excuse. So alhamdulillah, I got out of that, but that was very embarrassing. Imagine the same way we get to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He sent everybody a message of the Quran, isn't He? The Quran is with us. Quran is a message, that's what the Quran is. Don't think it's an alien book. A lot of us think the Quran is some alien book for the scholars to read. It's for every one of us. It's so personal. When you start reading it, you'll see it's so personal. And mashallah, we have people who read the Quran, just Arabic, non-Arabs, who read the Quran, but have never decided to go and understand what it says. Yes, they'll catch snatches of meaning from lectures and bayans and things like that, but they've never decided, I want to know what my God has told me from beginning to end, at least once in my life. Not to become a scholar, not to be a mufti and give fatwas on my own from the Quran, but just to know what my God is telling me. Let us start reading the Quran. I know Ramadan is past, but get a translation, and at least once, even if that takes you 5 years to complete, a page a day, a year to complete, no problem. Just read it through one day. At least on the Day of Judgment, we can say, oh Allah, I did listen to your message at least once. That's the first way. The second way to understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a very practical way, right, is your name is Daniel. So like if I call you Daniel, that's decent, you're not going to feel bad. It's like, Daniel, that's your name, so that's what I should do, right? You're going to feel acknowledged. But if I find out more about you, right, that you're very deep and you've got these different ideas and things, and I start to talk to you about that and I invoke you with those different characteristics, you're going to feel a lot more acknowledged that, hey, this guy really knows me. He just doesn't know my name, he knows my various qualities. Do you understand what I'm saying? You've got a lot of qualities, haven't you? So you're going to feel a lot more acknowledged because, like, man, this guy knows me. And you're going to feel like, yeah, because you feel validated that way. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala deserves it because He is the most comprehensive entity there is with all that. So the 99 names, what they are just a package of names that tell us who Allah is. So we know that from one aspect that He is the merciful one, and He is the loving one, and He is the mighty one, but He is also the one who avenges things. So for example, there's some people get stuck in this, that if God is all merciful, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, as we read every day multiple times in our salat as well, then why is it that sometimes through hurricanes and storms and other chaotic situations are innocent children killed? So this is the question. If God is all merciful, then why is it that innocent children are killed sometimes? Have you heard that question before? I don't want to cause a confusion in your minds, but this is a question that comes up. So firstly, what I want to say is that this question is not an Islamic question, because it doesn't fit in with the Islamic view of who Allah is. If you know the Islamic view of Allah, this question would never arise. Where does this question come from? It's all over online. It's a Christian question. It comes from a Christian backing, Christian perspective. And why? Because Christians believe is that God's mercy, mercy, love, 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 that's all they speak about. So their definition of God is very specific and very restricted to mercy and love and so on. Whereas in Islam, God doesn't say that I'm only merciful. He never claims that. The definition we know of God, and which fits with history and everything that happens in the world, right? Because if you believe that God is only merciful, you're going to get confused every single time somebody dies innocently. Like, okay, how did that happen if God is merciful? Right? That's why the 99 names tell us who Allah is. The same time that Allah is definitely merciful and compassionate and wadud, loving, He is at the same time, He is Qahhar, He is the mighty one. He is the Dar, from which whom all harm can come as well. He is also Muntaqim, the avenger, right? The one who takes revenge. So He's just doing different things. That's what He's doing. Because here He needs to show His mercy. There He needs to show this because the guy is an aggressor. For example, people who die in the earthquakes. Was the earthquake in Turkey a punishment? Why am I talking that after 2 years? Because these things happen, so we need to have that perspective in mind of why these things happen. Was it a punishment? Not necessarily, but it was for some people. For some people, it was a punishment. For the bad people, it was a punishment. They died without tawbah. They didn't make tawbah. God took them because they were bad people. There were others who were miserable. They were oppressed people. God, because when somebody dies in a calamity, they become a shaheed, a martyr, right? They get a special way to get to paradise, right? Things are forgiven for them more easily. So mashallah, for these people, they're enjoying the real life afterwards. Because remember, for Muslims, this life is not the only life. The real life is the life of the hereafter. If that's cool and good, then it's successful, regardless of how miserable this life is. So for some people, it's a source of mercy. For those who are left behind, it's a test. If they survive this test, knowing that, look, lots of things have happened in the past, but if I just be patient, Allah can give me a lot better than what I've lost. I'll give you an example. There's a country in Africa. So about 50 years ago, a lot of the Asians there, a lot of Indians, they moved there and they become very wealthy. And suddenly, the government changed and an oppression started against the Indians as such, and they had to literally escape and run away with sometimes hardly anything. They lost all of their assets. Now I'm speaking to an individual who that happened to his family. 40 years later, I'm discussing it now, like a few years ago. And he's telling me that there are still some people that he knows who escaped with his family. They're still depressed until today. They're still depressed until today. They can't move on. Whereas those who moved on, mashallah, Allah's given them a lot more than they lost. Do you know what I'm saying? That's Allah. That's the way He functions. If we don't know Allah, we'll become doubtful about Allah. We'll start complaining about Allah. We'll start criticizing Allah, because we've got to, usually when anybody has criticized Allah, has a complaint against Allah, it's usually to do with a mistaken understanding of who God should be, what He does, what His remit is, what His scope of action is. If we have a wrong understanding of who Allah is and how He should be functioning, then, and it doesn't happen that way, then clearly we're going to get confused and we're going to start complaining that God is wrong. It's about having the right definition. God does as He pleases. Imagine one of those people in this world, like our brothers who are suffering right now. If there wasn't a belief in the hereafter, if there was no God and this idea, can you imagine, can you survive? Psychologically, can you survive? Imagine you are oppressed. Everybody's against you. You have nobody to assist you, right? In any situation, you've got nobody to assist you. The whole system's against you. If you don't even have Allah at that point, what would you have? Nothing. Your depression would destroy you. Whereas people in very bad situations, if they have hope, that hope takes them out of that situation and allows them to overcome it. That's how powerful hope in Allah is. Trust in Allah, tawakkul in Allah, reliance in Allah. That's how powerful it is. I know people who have suffered hugely, like massive suffering, losing hundreds of thousands of pounds, being cheated by somebody or whatever. But the tawakkul was amazing and they got out of it, and mashallah. Hope is a very important aspect in Islam. Right? The hereafter is our most powerful aspect. Remember that. The belief in the hereafter is the most powerful aspect. I'll give you an example. My mother, may Allah bless her, suffered from cancer for 10 years. And then she finally passed away. Now that she's gone, there's nothing I can do, but at least I can feel good that she died as a martyr. Because she died through cancer, through pain. She got shahada because of the pain, right? She didn't die just a normal, natural death. You understand? There are about 70 different ways of dying which are considered martyrdom. Not martyrdom as fighting in the battlefield, but a lesser degree, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala looks after them. So I feel that now that she's gone, may Allah bless her, I feel, alhamdulillah, she's a martyr of some sort. Alhamdulillah, she died in the beginning of the Hijjah, right? So like in at the anniversary of her death is in like 2 weeks or something. But in the Ramadan, 2 months prior to it, she finished 7 Qurans while having chemotherapy. So I've got a lot of hope for her. An atheist who had the same experience with his mom, how is he going to take it? What's his belief about his mom? 10 years of suffering for nothing, and now it's going to nothing. There's nothing to look forward to. Well, what's the point of all of that suffering? For me, the 10 years of suffering elevated her status. The sabr, the patience, Allah just shoots you up there, raises your status, gives you huge amount of reward. So I'm going to tell him that, you know what, I feel very good about it. I mean, it's done, right? So I feel very good. How do you feel about it? Miserable. Miserable. 10 years of suffering for her and her family members. When I tell him that, you know what, this is my philosophy, this is my ideology, I feel good now, you know, and we've got something really good to look forward to. I'm going to, inshallah, see her in the hereafter. She's in a good place. You know what he's going to say to me? You're just making all of that stuff up to make yourself feel good. Right, that's what they would say, right? So you know what my response would be? Is there a problem with that? Is there a problem with that? Why can't I think these things and to make myself feel good? Why should I be depressed? Why should I feel miserable? Why should I mess my life up by feeling miserable? Why can't I entertain this idea that, mashallah, she's in paradise, she's in a good place, and I'm going to see her inshallah? Because neither you, neither me know what's exactly going to happen after death, meaning from proper proof and experience. But at least I've got a worldview and an ideology that makes me feel better right now, that makes me much more functional and productive individual right now, because I believe that there's something to hope for. What's wrong with the belief? We'll find out in the hereafter anyway. You understand what I'm saying? Don't lose your faith in Allah. Allah is there to sort all of these things out. He works in amazing ways. Now this love of Allah idea that I'm talking about, it is one of the most fundamental and most powerful ideas and the most useful idea if we can teach it to our children. Then, as I said the other day in the other lecture, at least half of our job is done in terms of bringing about children. If you're a person who's concerned about your children, want to bring them up in a proper Islamic manner, right? With God consciousness, with Allah awareness, right? Taqwa, fear of Allah, consciousness of Allah, let's teach them that. The only way you can teach them that is by telling us who Allah is. And we need to do this organically. So rather than tell them, pray, make sure you pray. No, we're going to pray to thank Allah. We got so much. Look what Allah has given us. Look at this wonderful house. Look at these products. Look at these clothes. Look at these holidays we can take. Look at this beautiful Banff area that Allah has placed us, close to. We can go there and have picnics and just enjoy the scenery. We need to thank Allah. When they attach all of the beautiful things that they have, and we have a lot, by the way. Do you know that you and I, the Western world, America, Canada, Europe, we enjoy a lifestyle of the top 10% of the world. Access to good health, access to products, access to refined services. And do we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for it? Imagine, I see many Indians, Somalis, Pakistanis, when you go back to those countries, aren't things a bit rough around the edges? Or is it the same quality as you see here? It's rough around the edges. You and I really enjoy an amazing, amazing luxury. I know we still complain because it's not the same as Bill Gates, right? But it is absolutely amazing. It's equivalent to the top 10% of the world. That's what we enjoy. And we need to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for that. That's what we need to do with our children. If we teach our children that awareness, our job is half done. Simple way to test is, do our children pray for us or for Allah? So when we're not there, will they pray? Even if they pray late. If they pray, that means they're praying for Allah. If they don't pray, then they're praying for us, and that's wrong. We've done it wrong. That's not the way to teach them how to pray. Even if you make sure they pray all the time. Change the strategy. Make it conscious. So this is how we do it. We sit to eat, and there's beautiful food, right? Most of the time we have good food or bad food. Right? You just have to organically say, Alhamdulillah, all praise to Allah. Look what God has given us. Just that expression, Allah be praised. We have to thank Allah so much. Don't tell them to do anything. Just say this. And they will understand that this all comes from Allah, and they'll start doing it. Right. Your kid wants something. Tell them to make dua for it. Get them into the mode of making dua to Allah. Then whether you buy them that or whatever it is, the facility, and you will see that inshallah, that will help them. If there's something they want and you can't help them, I just read the obituary of a person for his father who died. And he said, my father always would say, even if it was something that he couldn't help it was something complicated, he would always tell us, I can't do anything for you, but Allah can. That was his mantra. That was what he used to repeat. I can't do anything, your mom can't do anything, you know what, Allah can do something. That is how he instilled the connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. After that father has died, that son is remembering that one nasiha. Allah can do it. Allah can do it. It was yesterday, I think I gave the example of, Ya Allah. How old are you, my brother? How old are you? 9. You're 9. So there was a girl, she's 8 years old, so 1 year younger than you. And she had a brother who was 10 years old. The brother had some problem reading in school, so they took him to the optician, the eye doctor, to check his eyes out. And the doctor said he needs glasses. Right? You understand that? So when he came home, his sister found out. She's only 8 years old, so the sister started making fun of him. Right? You need glasses, you're going to have to wear glasses, and so on. So the mum said to the sister, don't make fun of your brother, because your dad has glasses, your mum has glasses, your older brother now needs glasses, you probably will also need glasses, because it runs in the family, right? And then after that she stopped, and then nothing more was said. Okay, you're listening, right? Then 10 years later, how old is she 10 years later? 18. Don't spoil it, right? I'm talking to him, not you guys. Okay. So she's 18 years old, right? Now she's also got 2 younger siblings. And guess what? They have glasses. Mom has glasses, dad has glasses, older brother has glasses, and the 2 younger ones have glasses. Should she have glasses or not? Yeah, she better have glasses. She doesn't have glasses. She's the only one who doesn't have glasses. Why not? She told them, everybody, after 10 years, she told everybody when it came up as a discussion, that hey, she's the only one who doesn't have glasses. She said, you know, Mom, you know when you told me 10 years ago that you're going to have glasses as well, I started praying to Allah. I don't want glasses. Can you believe that? And Allah accepted the dua. Allah accepted the prayer. Now, imagine her iman. Imagine her faith. God, Allah, worked for her. She called out to Him. He answered her prayer. She doesn't have glasses. That's the most powerful iman and faith you can have, when it's based on that. We don't teach our children that kind of stuff. We just have to pray. But prayer needs to be part of a bigger idea of doing it for the sake of Allah. That's why remember, your dad might not be able to do anything for you. Is that your dad? Or is that? Your dad may not be able to do something, but God can do it for you. Always remember Him. Always pray for Him. Pray to Him. We need to do those kind of things. You know, on many occasions, sometimes, especially our close ones, we have a little issue and a little misunderstanding and we feel bad with one another. I started making the dua. Allahumma alif bayna qulubina. Allahumma aslih dhata baynina. And very soon things get sorted out. It means, oh Allah, reconcile between our hearts and reform this problem we have between us. And most of the time it works. Alhamdulillah, it gets sorted out. Allah's there to help. You just have to call out to Him. So take these 99 names of Allah and read them, and whichever ones are related to your condition at that point, start using them. Start calling out to Allah with them. Start calling out to Allah with them. And you'll see that He will respond to you. Then the third way to get to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and love Allah is to find somebody who does love Allah. Well, you reckon he does, hopefully, right? And you try to sit in their company, you try to see how they function, what they do, learn from them. Find a shaykh who can do that for you. At least find something. If you can't find anybody locally, listen to their lectures, read their books, and you'll see that in action. And inshallah, we will get that as well, because when you read about the awliya, the rahmah descends. And number 4 is have a certain amount of dhikr. Aside from your namaz, salat that you do, have a certain amount of dhikr that you do. Because when you take the name of Allah over and over again, Allah loves it. You get a reward for it, and you get closer to Allah. Knowing Allah is essentially why Allah created human beings. Allah existed and there was nothing. He decided to create the human being with this whole system so that he could be recognized. People could be aware of him. Ma'rifah could be gained. That's essentially what recognition is. So Allah loves it when somebody recognizes him, because that's essentially our job in this world. That's why there's a story about a guy who's in hellfire. Ibn Rajab al-Hamdi has mentioned this in his collection. And he is having some punishment. He's a Muslim, but he was sinful, so he was in hellfire. And what time is it on? 11. Okay. So we got 10:35 right now. So we got about 25. Okay. So, yeah, the punishment finishes, and then he just exclaims, didn't Allah promise such and such? He just remembers. Allah hears that and he said, you know what, get this guy out, take him out of hellfire, he knows me. That's all Allah wants, for us to know Him. Cut away from all of the distraction, remember Him 5 times a day. Allah gives us so much. You know, have you got what's your name? Mr. Yellow. Mustafa, do you have an auntie? Do you have an auntie? You don't have an auntie? Oh, poor guy. Do you have an auntie, Mr. Blue? Do you have an auntie? Does she give you a lot of stuff? Yeah? Do you have an auntie? Yeah? Does she give you a lot of stuff? Sometimes. But his one gives a lot more, I think. So next time you go to that auntie's house, imagine you don't say salam to her, you don't give her a hug, you ignore her, you go to your cousin's room to play computer, to play games. Would she be happy with you? She won't be happy with you, right? She'd be upset. She's such a loving person to you and she's giving you so much, but now you're ignoring her, right? Allah has given us everything. And if you don't pray, you're ignoring Him. That's why we pray. To thank Him, to remember Him. That's why He made us for. He says, I'm going to give you everything. I just want you to remember me 5 times a day. And as much as possible. Carry on doing what you're doing, but just remember me and do it for me, that's all. That's what He wants us to do, but that's why we pray. Right? So that's how it is. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just wants us to be connected to Him. I'm giving these examples with children, but really it's the same thing that works with adults. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is only when you love Allah more than anything else can we get above our own selfishness and our own ego and do things purely for the sake of Allah. Only when we do that. Give you an example. Our love for this world is what distracts us. If we can first get away from the love of this world, we're still going to use the world, but we're just not going to love it. We're still going to use a car, a nice car even, a nice home, no problem, but we're not going to do it out of crazy love for it. We're going to do it because we need to. You understand what I'm saying? Nothing wrong with doing that. So we're going to try to get out of the love of the world first. Love of possessions. The second thing that we have to work on is love for position and fame and ego. That I'm not doing this to become known. I'm not doing this so people can thank me. I'm doing this for Allah. Number 3, now this is a bit complicated, I'm going to warn you. We also are not doing any of this for things like paradise. Now this sounds a bit crazy, okay? We're not, it's beginners who do good deeds so you can get to paradise. I don't want you to get misunderstand this, but the people who get to know Allah, they don't care about paradise anymore. They do deeds just because they're slaves of Allah, they have to do it for Allah. They don't care about anything else afterwards. And if they do want to go to paradise, do you know why they want to go to paradise? Because paradise is the only place where you get to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at least once a week. That's why they want to go to paradise. Otherwise, paradise is not even in their mind. They dismiss that from their mind. Their focus is even higher. It's just Allah. Now I know we might be very far from that, right? We do things we want reward for it. But you know what one of the scholars says? He says that isn't it already such a great reward that Allah has chosen you and considered you worthy to worship Him? Think about it again. Why are you sitting in a masjid today? You're sitting in the masjid, you think, you know what, I could have been doing so many things. On Monday night, I could have been doing so many other things. I'm sitting in the mosque, mashallah, I should get a lot of reward for that. Look at it another way. Isn't it already a reward from Allah that He thought you worthy of sitting in His masjid to worship Him? Isn't that already a reward? Do other people get the same opportunity? Haven't you already been rewarded? That's refined understanding of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if you do start taking La ilaha illallah, subhanallah, alhamdulillah frequently, you will see that the love of Allah will eventually push the love of everything else out of your heart. You won't be obsessed with that car anymore. You may still buy a wonderful car, but you won't be obsessed with the love of it. You might still use a good phone, but you're not going to be obsessed with the love of it. You're not going to argue with people for no reason about your team or something. You understand what I'm saying? Because you've got a bigger idea to think about. It's no longer that idea. You know how powerful the name of Allah is? Have you noticed chemistry? In chemistry, there's certain chemicals, even a small amount, it just dominates everything else. Small amount of it just dominates everything else. Take coffee, right? A small amount of coffee, you put that in milk, doesn't it dominate the milk? It changes its color, changes its smell, and it changes its taste. Small amount of coffee, it'll change the water, it'll blacken it, or is it brown? Right? That's how powerful it is. That's how powerful the name of Allah is. It just dominates everything. It's a very, very powerful way to do things. And our lowly soul is so promiscuous that anything that gleams and is shiny, it wants to go after it. You know our soul, our lowly self, it is so promiscuous, it has to have a friend. It has to have a lover. So if you give it a team, or whatever addiction it is, that will be its addiction. So the only way, remember, it has to be attached to something. Attach it to Allah, and then we're safe from everything else. Because that's the best candidate for love, right? Attach it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. By the ways that I explained. Otherwise, our heart has to be attached to something. Get it attached to Allah, then everything else we'll just use anyway, it's okay. Our hearts actually should have a no vacancy sign on them for anything else. Your friends might be into X, Y, and Z, no vacancy. I don't have time for that. I'm already inhabited by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When it comes to our children, subhanallah, when it comes to our children, fathers are very important, but mothers are even more important sometimes because the mother is the first madrasa for the child. And subhanAllah, I remember one friend telling us, and he made an amazing statement. He said, some mothers can give their children a 17 to 20-year head start on the path to Allah. Let me unpack that a bit. Some mothers, subhanAllah, can give a head start of 15 to 20 years in the path of Allah to their children. Do you know what that means? That means if the mother is good, and the father as well, it isn't said it's not the job of the father, but if they have been teaching them about Allah, speaking to them about Allah, stories about Allah and His messengers and Sahaba, etc., by the time the child is 15 to 20, he's already on the path of wilayah, of loving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Otherwise, if they haven't, and then when they become an adult, they're going to have to look for Allah. And unfortunately, we've seen that there are, subhanAllah, children coming from Muslim households, they discover Islam at university. They've not gone for an Islamic course. They've gone to do medicine or whatever it is, and they get into the MSA, and this is the first time they're actually hearing about what it means to be a Muslim. And they discover Allah there. The mother and the father are very powerful that we can actually set our children on the path of Allah. By the age of 15, 20, they know exactly how to get there. May Allah make us do that. May Allah make that easy for us. Very important thing to do that. So, remember as Ibrahim alayhi salam said when he was looking for Allah, when he discovered, he first thought the stars, but they went, then the moon, that disappeared, then the sun, that goes, Inni la uhibbul afilin. I don't like those who disappear. All of these things, I mean, if your iPhone disappears after a year and you have to buy a new one, then what's the point of that? You use it, I'm not saying don't use it, but don't love it. Don't be obsessed by anything. They all disappear, only Allah will remain forever. Only Allah will remain forever. Just check your surfing history every time after you get off your phone, and you'll see how much time you spend on there. Instead of Allah, you could have said La ilaha illallah at least 10 times, but we didn't. We spent 45 minutes online. We wasted a lot of time. This is taking us away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Who can claim that they've got no time for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Can anybody claim that today? I just don't have time. So I'm going to finish up with the last point then if you have any questions. What Allah really wants from us is what He mentions in the Quran, right? الَّذِينَ يَذْكُرُونَ اللَّهَ قِيَامًا وَقُعُودًا وَعَلَى جُنُوبِهِمْ. Those who He praises, those who remember Allah standing, sitting, and lying down. Now, if somebody tells you you should do dhikr, what does that mean? For most of us, if somebody says you should remember Allah, you should do dhikr of Allah, we think dhikr of Allah means to sit very formally and maybe with a tasbih and say La ilaha illallah, subhanallah, alhamdulillah, Allahu akbar, right? I mean, the verse is saying you stand up and do it, you lie down and you sit and do it, you lie down and do it. Man, what kind of disrespectful person are you that you're lying down remembering Allah? Like, come on, sit down at least. Actually, what it means, this is the proper dhikr. When you say subhanallah, alhamdulillah, Allahu akbar, that's just to get the heart to remember Allah. Allah wants us to remember Him at all times. Whether you're standing, sitting, or lying down. I'll give you an example. Some of the scholars said that we should take the name of Allah so much that eventually you'll be able to just be conscious of Him and remember Him in all your states, even if you're playing football. Whatever you do. Because at the back of your mind you're always thinking about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's what that means. It's about just being conscious of Him all the time. That's how even when you're lying down you could be doing that. Don't just, even our salat, as Allah says, أَقِمِ الصَّلَاةَ لِذِكْرِ. Establish the prayer for my remembrance, so that you remember me. And remembrance is not just saying subhanallah, alhamdulillah. It's about things. That's why there's a Persian saying which says, Das bakar dil bayar. If you're a mechanic, if you're doing whatever, your hand is involved and your body is involved in doing whatever, and your heart is connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is thinking about Allah. One day, inshallah, if we can have that state, it would be wonderful. We're doing our job, but we're still thinking about Allah. We're driving, we're still thinking about Allah. We're playing football, we're still thinking about Allah. Not just at the end when you score a goal that you do sajda. But every shot you take, you're saying Alhamdulillah. Even in football, you can literally make that. Every shot you take, Alhamdulillah. When you're going for it, oh Allah help me. It's just in your mind, because while you're playing, you're connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's how it can become. I'm telling you. Right? Anyway, let me stop here. I'm going to say, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the tawfiq, may Allah accept from us, may Allah grant us His awareness, and make it easy for us, and especially for our entire family, so that on the Day of Judgment we just love to meet Him, because we've been in connection with Him throughout this world. May Allah make it easy for us. And remember, your dad might not be able to help you, but Allah can. So you're going to pray to Him. Okay, any questions?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So you know more than I do, but that majority of Muslims come to the masjid on the Friday prayer, right? And that's half an hour window of the khutbah is the only chance that we can connect with youth and the wider community. So most mosques would hire an imam that cannot speak in English.
Yeah, I don't know if this is related to what we're talking about.
That goes to, it's a question only for that, or is that could be a wider?
Meaning, let's talk about this. Let's talk about this first, because the one you're talking about, I don't know if we can have the solution to that right now, because I'm not in charge of all of the imams of the community. So I know you've got frustration in your heart, right? But I don't think you should bring it up just like this, because I don't think it's worth it. I don't think None of these can do anything. I can't do anything, so it's just your frustration. Call to Allah.
Frustration is that there should be a principle involved.
We can make all the principles, but it's people like you and everybody else, like us, who are committee members or whatever, they don't think right. Allah help us. Remember, I can't do anything, but if you ask Allah, inshallah, you can do it. Yes, brothers.
What things like can solve the ghafla?
What can?
Can solve the meaning of ghafla?
What can solve ghafla, right? Asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one, oh Allah, help me become, لا تجعلني من الغافلين. Don't make me of the heedless ones, number one. Number two, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-kasal wal-'ajz. Oh Allah, I seek your refuge from laziness and from powerlessness, of procrastination. Number two. Number three, set a schedule for yourself and stick to it. Make a schedule that at this time I'm going to sit for dhikr. This time I'm going to do this. This time I'm going to work, and stick to it. Most of us don't have schedules. We do كما اتفق. So, sorry?
Other than the dhikr of sabah and masa.
Well, dhikr sabah and masa, and then think what else we need. What is important, we'll have to discuss that more in detail, and then have a time set for that as well. And then whatever the ghafla is from, we have to put that into our schedule.
What is the reasons for
Sorry?
What is the reasons for ghafla?
The reason for our ghafla, it could be multiple. It could just be lazy attitude from a young age, we're just being lazy. It could be that we've made a sin and Allah is punishing us. Allow the وَمَنْ يَعْشُ عَنْ ذِكْرِ الرَّحْمَنِ نُقَيِّدْ لَهُ شَيْطَانٍ فَهُوَ لَهُ قَرِينٌ. Whoever stays away from the remembrance of Allah, we designate a shaitan for them, and then that shaitan becomes a very close associate of that person. Could be multiple reasons, so we make tawbah. We ask Allah to help us, forgive us if we've done something wrong that is كَلَّا بَلْ رَانَ عَلَىٰ قُلُوبٍ. Inshallah, it's not that, It could be multiple things. Yes, brother, what was it?
How do you seek forgiveness when every day you can't stop doing haram?
How do you seek forgiveness every day? So you mean like you don't feel good about saying because you can carry on doing it? Yeah. You just carry on because Allah loves to forgive. And He says, even if you do it 70 times, I'll still forgive, right? And the way we should do it is, we should think that, this next time I'm going to do istighfar, that's going to be the last time, or this time that I've done the sin, this will be the absolute last time, inshallah, I'm not going to. You just have to increase the faith in Allah. And then if we actually get an increased understanding of Allah through the 99 names, reading the Quran, that will solidify the iman more. So inshallah, then we'll have stronger willpower to avoid it. Inshallah.
Do you know of any books or something that gives an in-depth understanding of the 99 names of Allah?
There's quite a few books on the in-depth understanding of the 99 names of Allah. One is Imam Ghazali's one. It's been translated into English as well. You can do a search online. That's a really nice one, right? I've also got a series of lectures on Zamzam Academy, which is our channel on YouTube and also on our website, zamzamacademy.com, ZAM. So it's a whole description of all of the names. And inshallah, what we're trying to do next is we're trying to produce how to do the 99 names, how to use each of the names for what, I'm getting a bit lost now. How to use each of the names for what, basically, in terms of the practice, like Rahman, what can you use it for? So inshallah, maybe I can do that as well, but these are the few sources that there are, okay? There was a, yes?
Sheikh, you mentioned that there are some people who are high in their iman or status, that they don't think about everyone for Jannah.
Yeah.
They just do that for the love of Allah.
Because they're slaves of Allah, I'm just going to do it.
Do you think that's something that we have to aspire for?
Absolutely. That's the higher level, yes.
It's in three levels.
Absolutely.
For the love of Allah, and for the reward of Jannah, and for the fear of Adab Jahannam. That's the three purposes that I
So the fear of Adab Jahannam is like a starting step. And the love of wanting paradise, and for fear of Jahannam, that's like the starting. That's starting, exactly. Beyond that is, I'm just doing it for you, Allah, I don't care about anything else. I'm a slave, I'm Abd, you're the Lord, that's what I'm going to do it for. That's the higher level. Paradise is makhluk of Allah, whereas Allah is Allah. That's higher. Think about that. Yeah, that's higher. Yes,
Sheikh,
Pastor.
if a person does something with the intention of getting reward for it, would you say there's a defect in his ikhlas, or?
Okay, anybody who's doing it for the sake of paradise or reward, carry on doing it. Until you know Allah more and you do it for Him. Okay? Don't stop doing it and saying, I don't have ikhlas. That's not what we mean here. Right? That was just to show that there's a high level. Okay? Shaitan's idea would be, and the ulama have written this very clearly, very clearly. If you do an action and you don't feel sincere, don't ever abandon the action. Because you can't learn sincerity except in the action. For example, if I'm assisting somebody and I say, I don't have ikhlas, so let me stop helping them. When am I going to learn sincerity? I can only learn it when I'm helping. Okay, next time I'm going to help you, I'm going to be sincere. So I tried, I was 70% sincere. And I tried again, I'll be 100% sincere. Don't ever abandon action. Carry on with the action, just force your mind to be more sincere. Otherwise, shaitan wins if you leave the action. Okay, 4 minutes left, so for iqamas, that means they have to do adhan as well, right? Yeah. Okay, so this last child's question, and then we're done. You want to do it? Okay. Assalamu alaikum.